Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 9th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today was a cloudy day. It was a rainy day, though I will say I stayed pretty dry. So I appreciate that. It is raining a little bit off and on right now, so we might get caught in another rainstorm. Not sure. Fingers crossed that we don't. I don't know. I feel like it's bad for audio. Unless you're like into that ASMR vibe, then I hope it rains for us. I don't know. But yeah, let's see here. How am I doing? I'm good. I feel like I'm in a good spot. I'm in a good place. Not much to complain about. So that's solid. Let's see here. Food corner. Um, I had a hamburger, some hot dogs, and fries. It's very yummy. I enjoyed it. Also, I had some mini corn dogs as well, and they were also tasty. Let's see here. Yeah, not much else to report on the personal news stuff. I feel like you're pretty apprised of where I'm at, how I'm feeling, how I'm living. I will say I do have these anxious thoughts about money again. I mean, what average American doesn't, right? But I'm sure I've said this before when I talked about the rent shit. It just can kind of feel like I'm cycling again, like when I look back at where I was at last year, like budget wise and stuff like that. But I do feel like I have a better outlook about it. So that's been nice. I feel like I'm checking myself better and not giving into that dread feeling, so that's something I'm giving myself a attaboy pat on the back for. So yeah, there's that. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do our startup, and we'll get into some news. It's once again a little bit of a sprawl of an episode. I'm getting a little carried away, but there's things I really want to talk about, but I'm gonna try to do it in classic Isaiah fashion. Kind of hop around, riff around. You know, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, I don't fuck it up too bad. Also, we do have the wine out today, so that's a thing. We're still on the red. I really need to find maybe a white wine that I like, so that way I can have a good clutch. You know what I mean? But I don't feel like I'm not too adventurous when it comes to wine. But I don't know. I'm in the weeds about wine. Anyway, let's let's talk about some things at hand. A little bit of an update to the thing I said about Biden withholding bombs from Israel because they started their invasion of Rafah. Biden said Wednesday that he would halt the shipment of offensive weapons to Israel, acknowledging that such weapons have been used to kill civilians if the country moves ahead with his invasion of Rafah, a southern Gaza city harboring more than a million Palestinians, many of whom have fled their homes amid the war. That's an excerpt from Washington Post. So, I mean, this is good news. It's good that it's not just the bombs; it's a little bit more than that. Though, as far as how long that's gonna be, him withholding it, who knows? But that is something that it is saving lives. You know what I mean? It's not nothing. It's not a zero sum thing. Just like once again referencing the shipment jetty thing that he's got making, that is set up, and I think they got their first shipment off of it. It's drops in the bucket, but these things are things that are helpful. But it's just so frustrating, and I cannot stress enough that so much more could be done. These are literally our allies, and and not just like allies, like we're buddies. Like no, literally, like it's like brother shit. Like if we told them to stop and we did it with force, like in terms of not like putting people on the ground or whatever, but just literally saying we'll stop helping you. We'll just literally leave you out here. They would comply. You can almost guarantee that shit. What are they gonna do on their own? They'd have to like go and like work with Russia and China, and even then that probably still not would not be enough to cover the spread that they would need. I know I'm getting into the weeds about this shit. I know we've talked about this shit like I think every day this week, but it's important to not look away from these fucking things. It's also important, I feel like, to say, hey, I don't think that Biden would be doing this without the yet again the combined effort of Americans in an election year to be like, dude, we do not want you to do this. We are saying this with our literally like physical bodies. We are hanging out at campuses. We are protesting anywhere and everywhere we can. We are going to these performances. We're making Lizzo mad. She's mad. She's wanting to quit because she performed this shit and people were protesting and like she couldn't handle that. She's got a lot on her plate. That's not a fat joke. And I can, even if it was a fat joke, I'm fat. I can do that. But anyway, I'm happy to see that this pressure is at least doing something positive. I would like to think, I would like to hope, because I truly do think if you turn the clock back, to another time when people maybe aren't as aware or not as caring about this shit, I think this shit does just happen without a hitch because there's just not enough people talking about it on it. So I do think that's important. But a thing that Biden is doing that I didn't like, the Biden administration, I should say, but, I can just throw it all up to Joe Biden. Fuck it. He's in charge, that fucking old ass corpse. The Biden administration is expected to propose a new rule Thursday that would accelerate the pace at which certain migrants could be processed and barred from asylum after crossing the southern border, according to two sources familiar with the decision. Now, we should get into the details of it, and I'm not. But I know, like, this is, like, for, like, criminal offenders and things like that, yada, yada, yada. But at a time like this, when it comes to the border thing, this just feels like something he's doing for political points to appeal to, like, moderates and, like, appease, conservatives in a way to try to secure a vote. So I don't like it. I feel like it's yucky and icky. I mean, he can barely get the fucking app to work, for these people. And he's already making it hard enough to get to the border and then actually get processed for asylum. And now it's like, no, I want to actually get more of you. I want you cut out before you even get a chance to be processed for asylum. I think that shit's fucked up. But something I did kind of want to double back to, I was already seeing articles talking about how, like, Biden could be impeached for withholding this little bit of fucking aid. Mind you, that Israel doesn't even fucking need. They have the means to do this fucking genocide shit. So it's crazy that this is probably going to be something by the end of the month that people are going to be probably trying to talk like impeachment shit over. Like, that's insane to me. Like, this isn't even like, Biden doing some like hyper progressive fucking thing. It baffles and boggles the mind, but I know that it shouldn't. Let's move on. Speaking of, just more politics and bullshit as usual. Let's go to USA Today. Mike Johnson saved. House kills effort from Marjorie Taylor Greene to oust Speaker. The House soundly killed an effort to oust House Speaker Mike Johnson, a Republican from Louisiana, from his leadership post in another defeat to the lower chamber's most conservative lawmakers. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, I don't know why I'm doing all these terrible accents, but I can't help myself, forced the House to vote on a motion to vacate, a procedural tool that, if passed, would have forcibly removed Johnson from the speakership. Now, truthfully, I talked about this in a previous episode, I don't know, a week or two ago, whatever. And more or less it played out this way, but like, the writing was so on the wall for Marjorie Taylor Greene that she really should have walked away from this. She knew she did not have the numbers, and she also knew that, like, the Democrats were going to back Johnson. Like, they had more or less made a deal. So it's like, hey, you're going to get this deal done. We'll at least cover you, for, like, right now. You're in our good graces for right now. We don't have a beef with you. We're fine to, like, keep chaos out of the situation here. That being said, when the vote, all came to, it was 359-43, drowning out the conservative renegades who wanted to remove Johnson. There were 32 Democrats and 11 Republicans who voted against tabling Greene's motion. Essentially, they were the ones being like, actually, let this shit rock, dude. Let's fucking go right back to where we were with McCarthy. Let's fucking let these motherfuckers eat their own ass, all, on live. We don't care. For the conservatives, they're like, yeah, we want to have this shit pure. Like, it's so funny that the conversation, especially from conservatives, is just so, like, anti-partisan. Like, probably the wrong word, whatever, fuck it. But like, they're just like, whenever they hear the word bipartisanship, they're like, ew, that's so gross. Like, our people don't want that. And I'm like, in what world? Like, what cyclopses are you listening to? Like, I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, people want to see their government work at the end of the day. Like, sure, you might not like Barack Hussein Obama and yada 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 and the like. Maybe you don't like the liberal woke people, but at the end of the day, you want your government to work. So the idea of Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, okay, you made a deal, you got that Ukraine shit passed, among other things passed. Like, you did things that we wanted, but you did one thing that we really told you that we did not want. And essentially, she just wanted to throw a whole ass fit and got like a handful of other people to agree. But since shit is on such a razor thin majority for Republicans, and they've allowed this whole like motion to vacate, feels like a goddamn trial by combat. So they allow this animal show to happen, and potentially it can happen again. MTG, which I'm just gonna, I loathe that, because as a Magic the Gathering player, like, it's like every time I hear that, my ears perk up, but it's for Marjorie Taylor Greene, but it's just easier to say that. She says she might try this again in about a month, but I mean, even so, like, Donald Trump and her, they keep in correspondence, they literally chit chat, kiki, and he even told her, he's like, don't do this. Like, wait a little bit. Let's get a little bit further down the line. Things are fine right now. I get it. You don't like him. We don't like him, whatever. He's not like us. But, like, we'll handle it later. And she's like, no. I'm going to get this motherfucker now. And she just made a whole ass of herself. They literally were booing her. They were going to send her to Tomato Town. Her own ganging them. So, in a way, I just wanted to talk about this because it was just so funny to see her, like, bang her head against the wall over this shit. And to literally see even Donald Trump be like, yeah, dude, I can't walk with you on this. I got a whole trial to deal with, okay? I don't have time for you. So, it's Panic at the Disco. But old Mike Johnson, he's going to live to see another day. This fucker. Boo this man. I really have tomatoes for all these motherfuckers. And I mean, you could argue though too, something I kind of just wanted to close on before we move on to the next thing, that maybe it would have been the cool thing, the right thing, to just let chaos happen. Because what are these guys really getting into office? Like, oh, we're gonna pass another anti-Semitism bill or some dumb shit. I should put my quotations on the anti-Semitism thing, because they're not using it the way that it's supposed to be used. We've talked about it, but I don't know. All these motherfuckers are frustrating as hell. I'm not really rooting for any of them, but where do I stand? Where's my 2 cents laying? I get it. Like, as as a liberal, I talk about the whole team sports thing, and it's like, yeah, you could try to play them with their own game, but I think people, once again, going back to my main point here, you want to see your politicians at work actually doing something for you. Because I talk about this shit time and time again. They just come around and they do bullshit ass nothing. So at the end of the day, they're just going to keep playing busy. And I think it was the good call for them to say, hey, let's just keep this fucking bag of potatoes in power as a speaker, because we can't get anybody in on our side. So let's just keep on doing what we're doing. Let's just get to our next vacation. So yeah, that's that. Let's move on to the next thing. Let's actually take it to the skies. From The Independent. Second Boeing whistleblower dies after raising concerns about 737 MAX. All right. A second Boeing whistleblower has died after a sudden illness. Joshua Dean, a former quality auditor at Spirit AeroSystems, went public with claims that a company's leadership ignored manufacturing defects in Boeing 737 MAX. Spirit AeroSystems is a Boeing supplier. Dean, 45, had an active lifestyle and was believed to be in good health prior to his sudden death on Tuesday, following the onset of a fast-moving infection. He was stricken with influenza B and MRSA and developed pneumonia, according to Fox 59. Also, another thing I wanted to add, this story's a little bit older. I caught it a little bit late, but shout out to Last Podcast on the Left. Shout out, little side stories. They covered this, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even hear about this. and I just definitely wanted to cover it. So, but continuing on, he spent 2 weeks in critical condition before he died on Tuesday in Oklahoma, according to the Seattle Times. I mean, some of the stuff that he was saying in terms of like in his deposition, I believe that's what it's called that he was in, but like that the fuselages had holes that were drilled wrong, and he had called it out, and they were just like shrugging him off. He inevitably winds up getting fired from his job, for more or less just speaking out, and attests that that's more or less just the company norm. And then of course planes start going down. Literally two planes fucking crashed. People fucking died. Um, Oh, this is a little bit of a random aside. I was listening to The Yard. I like telling y'all the other podcast I listen to. But they actually, one of the people on there, they said something that was very interesting to me that made me think. And it was definitely kind of like a sad thing where it's like, oh, this shit doesn't get as much play. Like the whole situation with the 737 Maxes going down, people literally dying because like they weren't like Americans dying, And I was like, oh, damn. Like, that's a sad but true thing. Because it was a big thing. It definitely made news. I remember hearing about it, and I wasn't even, like, really news savvy at the time. I really wasn't a newsie living that life. But I do think it's one of those things, the outrage would have probably been so compounded. Because now you hear and you see, and also another thing they mentioned, too, was the fact that it's, like, cameras weren't as much of a thing or what have you. Because having the shit literally like video recorded of like, oh my god, like this looks like a lost scene, like oh my, like my kid got their shirt sucked off of them, and it's like, yeah, this shit is making bigger headlines even though nobody died, because it's like it's all kind of stacking on itself, and there's a little bit more coverage, and sad to say, it's happening in America. But yeah, kind of back to Dean. I'm sorry, I know that was a little bit of a random aside from my little brain soup, but I felt compelled. Um, you know, I've heard, some people talking a little bit of like, well, add another one to the body pile for the Boeing hitman. And it's like, I know that's kind of fucked up to say, and it's a conspiratorial place where, we go to. We're actually going to talk a little bit more about conspiracies to close this out. Not quite yet, though. But at the end of the day, for this situation, especially with Joshua Dean, where I'm kind of landing, it's like, I mean, it is possible to get sick like this. It is possible. But at the end of the day, am I going to be running point for Boeing? Hell the fuck no. So, I'm going to let y'all, put your tinfoil hats on and do your work and cook. Say what you want to say. I don't know. But at the end of the day, bullshit aside, whatever, it's very sad. It's very unfortunate. And I appreciate a person like Dean saying like, hey, this is fucked up, this is wrong, and I'm not going to stop talking about it. Because we've heard so many stories of literally like, you have your higher ups texting you, telling you what could happen to you. Like, and it starts to get to the point where they're not just talking about like your fucking career anymore. And it's like, what is this? What is this, fucking Goodfellas? Like, what? I didn't know I was working for construction or something. Like, what are you, Tony Soprano? But like, next thing you know, people are dying, and I'm not connecting those dots. But I'm just saying, you don't want that to happen to you, right? That's so scary. And I'm at the end of the day, what is it? John Barnett, the person we've covered before, who died, in his truck, and Joshua Dean, they aren't the only people who have been whistleblowing. There are other people. There are a lot of people who have been talking, and people who have literally, taken it all the way up to, Congress or whatever. So, I really do hope that this does make changes, and Boeing just doesn't keep shrugging this shit off. Because once again, at the end of the day, I cannot stress this enough, they are doing all these shortcuts. They are ignoring all these fucking problems just so that they can line their shareholders' pockets, just so that everybody up top can get better bonuses. That's all this is it for. It's so fucked up. People are dying. It's scary. So, that's something I wanted to talk about, riff and raff about. And we're going to go from raffing to rapping. And we got to talk about Drake again. We're back on beef shit, I guess, a little bit. But this is more news related, a little bit closer to true crime. Once again, from USA Today. Person apprehended following attempted break-in at Drake's Toronto home, police say. Now, before we get into it, I guess I want to do a little bit of a beef recap. Not too much detail here. I think we left off last with... the Not Like Us. I think it was Not Like Us. Or it might have been Meet the Grants, whatever. Uh, Kendrick did his shit. Shit was pretty much wrapped up. It felt like there's no coming back. Drake, of course, has his retort. It is the Heart Part 6, which is a clever, cheeky little nod because Kendrick Lamar did the Heart Part 1 through 5. Very nice, introspective, cool ass rap shit. And essentially, it's him like bogarting that title and then doing a beef track over it. But the beef was like the track was terrible. It was a terrible rap. Like he tries to deny the allegations by like, I'm rich. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, how the fuck you mean I'm a pedophile? Like, that's not how you. It's not how you beat the rap. That's not, even R. Kelly did better, brother. That's not okay. And then he like tries to bring up that like, oh yeah, like weren't you molested? Like, is that why you're calling me a pedophile? It was weird. It was just not a good way to close this out. And then he kind of just says, all right, I'm dropping it. And then, of course, these things happen. There is an attempted break-in. His security guard gets shot. We'll try to cover that a little bit here. And so, there's a little bit of an assault on, the Drake estate, if you will. We don't know if Drake was there for any of this shit. But I wasn't really going to come back to it. I know I don't usually get too hip-hop. I try to keep it to, mainstream news, politics, burning buildings, earthquakes, tornadoes. There's more tornadoes. I missed some. I'm sorry. But, I figured, hey, let's talk about this because we're a little bit more true crimey this time. But following a shooting near the home of rap star Drake, earlier this week, a person was apprehended by authorities Wednesday following an attempted break-in at the rapper's home. Toronto Police Service, the way they word it, okay, Toronto Police Service officers were called to Drake's home around 2 p.m. Wednesday after an individual attempted to gain access to the property. Police spokesperson Ashley Visser confirmed to USA Today in an email. Police cannot disclose an individual's identity because the person was apprehended under the Ontario Mental Health Act, meaning the incident is not being treated as a criminal matter. Under the act, authorities may take a person in custody to a physician for examination if officers are of the belief that the person is apparently suffering from a mental disorder that could result in serious bodily harm, according to the Ontario government's website. Now, something I wanted to kind of add, and that's why I think it was the Not Like Us thing, because that track. Oh no, maybe it wasn't No, it was Not Like Us. They have that one. Actually, that's even on the Spotify thing, which is crazy that your beef tracks were like, one's calling one a pedophile, the other one's calling the other like, a spousal abuser. Like these are like Billboard charting songs. So that's crazy. But Kendrick's album cover, or single cover, you could say, had a picture of Drake's estate on it. And so I think it's kind of inferred a little bit, not by this article, but just in general, that it's like, oh, well, because you posted this dude's address, like people were like inspired to go fucking get him. I don't know. There's no ties to that as of yet. That's another reason why I didn't really want to talk about it. Because initially the security guard got shot, which I guess I should kind of beeline to that. The incident follows a shooting outside Drake's home Tuesday morning, which resulted in the injury of the rapper's security guard. I believe he was shot in the chest. So, I mean, that's pretty, heavy. I was kind of having this conversation with a friend, and maybe this is me being a little bit too dramatic-ish, whatever, but, y'all know, I'm a podcaster. I got a yap. But something I was just kind of saying, because we were just talking about beef in general, what have you, and, like, the thing that like is kind of upsetting when you get into these kind of situations, kind of going back to the Tupac Biggie shit, is that it can almost feel like us as a society, as like just people, we get so invested into this shit. And like you can even see it in this, where like we just can't stop talking about it, we can't stop making memes about it, like, and we get so arced up, so charged up about it, and it almost feels like that like it's like a Mayan-esque sacrifice has to happen. Like someone has to like there has to be harm, there has to be combat. Like this can't just be words anymore. Like this has to like be settled in blood. And I don't think this gets said in words outside of the music, but it's just that energy. It's almost like a Lord of the Flies thing. I can't really quite put my words in it without sounding like a cliche ass dork. But like it just feels like that's the pound of flesh that gets asked of us, like, or that's what we want. And like obviously I don't think that's what we really want, because then it happens and we're like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened. Why did we let this happen? Us as a society. Oh my god, I saw a fucking drummer boy Questlove being like, oh, this is hip hop is dead. I'm like, no, dude, Nas already said that shit. Get the fuck out of here. Boo. And I like Questlove. I'm a Roots enjoyer, but like, get the fuck out of here. I'm so sick of that dude yapping. I'm so sick of him yapping about this shit, crying, whining. Like, at the end of the day, it's beef, and I know I'm kind of just talking about multiple things here, but like, it's music. It should be enjoyed. And yes, it's fucked up. This is terrible things. You shouldn't really have this in music, but it's gotten here and it's terrible. But like, this is what we're looking at. Like, and I guess the discourse is good in a way. That's good. Like that we're talking about these things and addressing it. I make the most out of it. Silver linings. Y'all know I love that. But yeah, I don't like the whole hip hop is dead thing. And I hope that no one has to die. There you go. Tying it all together. But yeah, crazy shit happening in hip hop in real life. You know, like I said, it went from just music to true crime, just like that. Quick. Okay, all right. I have one more thing to cover. I promised you guys some conspiracy talk, and oh boy, we're gonna get some conspiracy talk and brainworms. But let's take our last break. I need a little break. I'm gonna take a water break. I'm gonna take a little other break, and then we're gonna get into it. Oh man. Ooh. Mm. Okay. And we're back from from People magazine. Oh, I said magazine. It's People in general. People, the media outlet, whatever. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or RFK Jr., says doctors found a dead worm in his brain. Brain worms, y'all. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of the late Robert F. Kennedy and a controversial anti vaccine activist, says doctors suspected a worm ate part of his brain, according to a new report from the New York Times. In a 2012 deposition, the 70-year-old detailed a number of his past health issues, including some of the neurological symptoms he started experiencing in 2010. After struggling with severe memory loss and brain fog, doctors became concerned when one of his brain scans showed a dark spot, which neurologists believed was a brain tumor. It might be a tumor. However, before a scheduled surgery to remove the suspected tumor, another doctor at New York Presbyterian Hospital told Kennedy that they believed the mass was actually the remains of a dead parasite. Bro, this is some Animorph shit. Like, this motherfucker had a yerk in his brain. Like, I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry. This man had the audacity to have a yerk in his brain and was like, you know what? I got this going on. I got a fucked up voice. And I got these fucked up notions that, like, COVID's gonna fuck up, like, everybody but the Jews and the Chinese. I think I should run for president. And I'm like, dude, this is confirming everything for the haters. You should have never let this shit see the light of day. I would have found all the doctors. I would have been like, you can never say this. Like, you have to say that you think there's brain worms. I want to be a president one day. You can't. I shouldn't do the voice. It's just crazy to have this information out here and being like, yo, I'm gonna try to run for president. I'm a Kennedy. Like, dude, I don't know. I guess this is proof that the curse is real, but this is also proof to me that, like, a curse couldn't happen to a better fucking person. I'm sorry. Like, getting back to the article, He's not sure how he got the potential worm, but he believes it happened on a trip to Southeast Asia at the time. And I know I shouldn't be ableist. This could happen to anyone. These parasites, these brain worms are real. Like, it's a real thing. But, like, I'm sorry, dude. I just don't. Like, this is RFK. Like, it's the same reason I'm rooting for the tree when it comes to fucking Greg Abbott, bro. Like, fuck these guys. These dudes are not okay people. Like, and I don't want to see them as president. I'm sorry. If you're putting something to my head and you say, okay, you can't vote for Joe Biden, I'm not voting for Trump. Okay, so you managed to get RFK on the ballot. I'm gonna juke you. I'm gonna write in for the fucking brainworm. I'm not voting for him either. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't. And honestly, just kind of bringing it back full circle to close it out. Where am I at with Joe Biden? Right? I don't know. I don't fucking know. Like, I'm reminded now so much so, and it's so loud, louder than ever, that like you don't have to. You just don't. And like I've said this before, I understand why people are out there and they're just like, I don't need to. Like, I don't want to vote for this guy. Everything he's done, everything he's doing is not for me. Who is it for? Like, at the end of the day, it just feels like a lateral either way, and I can understand that, you know? When it comes down to my core principalities, practicalities, whatever, yeah, I'm still most likely gonna ride with Biden. I hate it, but it feels like I'm fucking you know, it just feels terrible. I don't like it. Because this dude's not gonna do anything better for the next 4 terms. He's practically proven it. You know, like there's just no diversion. Like, we let this guy get bowled over by Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Like, what do we have? Like, you know, and what is Kamala Harris gonna do, dude? I don't know. Not much. Not fucking much, dude. Talk about coconuts and trees. I don't know. So yeah, I mean that's where we're at. That's the political scene. You know, that's where we're at with the USA and Israel a little bit there. Yeah, I feel like I covered it. I feel like I talked enough, and I went too long, and I'm sorry. But hopefully, if you made it to the end, you're a real G, you're a real trooper, you're a newsie. Well, I mean, you could be. You probably are. You've probably been a little bit. You've helped out financially a little bit. Maybe you've been a newsie maybe once or twice, and I appreciate you. You can become a newsie today, though, financially, by subscribing to my Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Contact me there. Hopefully subscribe to the YouTube. Hopefully subscribe to any of the listening platforms that you're on right now. Let's see here. Likes are great. Max out those reviews, please and thanks. Sharing is caring. It can be fun. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.